All right. Next topic is about accessors and mutators. We already talked about this in chapter 3. So just a review on that one. The mutator is going to change the state of an object. The accessors is just going to do some reporting. So it's just going to give me some value or do something. All right. There are some classes that are immutable. That means we cannot change anything inside of it. Do you remember any class that's immutable? You cannot change the content of it? What was it that you tried to use and then you wanted to modify content of it, inside of it, and it didn't let you do it? Come on, guys.
A card object?
No, the card you cannot modify. I mean, okay, we can think about it that way. But the most common one was the string. So if you had an object of a string, you could not modify its characters. You had to create a new one and copy it over. So that's one of the one that you have seen. And then you can think about the card object. Do I want to modify things in there or not? So if I don't want to modify stuff like coin, for example. So if I have a coin and I create an object of a coin, which has the name of dime and it has the value of 10 cents, do I want to change these things? So if I have a coin called dime, most likely I'm not going to change either the value or the name of it. And mentioned card, if I create a single card that has a suit and a number, and that card most likely isn't going to be changed. So I'm not going to have a mutator method inside of that card class to change anything. So if I don't have a mutator inside the class, that is an immutable class. That means I cannot modify the things inside of it. So why are we able to safely share? Because we know if I give you my object, you're not allowed to change it. So if I give you a card, as he said, or if I give you a string, you cannot change it. So I am going to be safe by giving you that. If you have mutable methods in there, then there is a chance that they're going to be modifying it. And that is generally what we call the side effect for the class. Okay, so if it's immutable, that means we cannot have any mutators in there. Now, if that's not the case, then we're going to be separating our accessors and mutators. Generally, the mutators are not returning anything. The mutator's job is to modify the content of the class, which is generally the instance variables. And our accessors are the one that's going to return something from my class. So this is most of the time. I'm not saying it's 100% of the time, but that's the goal that we're going to be working on. So if I have a mutator, that means I'm changing the content of my class, my object. Generally, they are void methods. So sometimes we can have a return value. We say that,
What does it mean by informational value? Like, why do they categorize it as information?
so the mutator, okay, so you are asking for to calculate the interest rate or something. So when I do some calculation, when I do some information, so you say, get me tax rate, or you're going to say compute interest. So these are going to return you a value related to what you're asking. Now, if I am going to change the interest rate to the new rate, potentially I'm not returning any rate. I'm just changing the previous one to the new one. That's my mutator. Sometimes I'm going to be returning, let's say, Boolean or a number or something to indicate that this operation went okay. So I'm going to be changing my tax return to a new tax return, but if something is wrong, I'm going to return a value saying that there is something wrong with my method. This is not common, but it is available. So that's what it is. It's not directly connected to what we're doing. It's just some information, like everything went okay, or we had an error. So we're going to return some numbers for our errors in that one.
Okay, thank you.
So the second one is talking about that. So when we were doing with the array list, when we call the remove, which is the mutator, it's going to return a true to say that that was successful or not. So even though it's a mutator, it's going to return a Boolean. And that's what we're talking about. So this is an example for that, that if I drink a little bit of the water, I am changing the content of the bottle, the water inside the bottle, and I'm checking for the temperature. So I am modifying it, and I am checking the temperature. So these are some exceptional way of doing it. That is not something that we're all going to be doing. So the goal is our mutators are not going to return anything. Our accessors are going to return something. Our accessors are not going to change anything inside our class. Our mutator are not going to return anything. So that's in general rule. Are we okay before we move on?
Yes.
Okay, so that generally going to cause some side effect.